Should we start this thing?
Let's start it.
All right. Drum roll, please, even though we're not talking about drums. Episode 9. Yes.
9.
Back to the stuff that people don't listen to.
To the strangy noise thing.
Talk-
Bring, bring, bring.
Yes, we are talking guitars today.
What show are we?
What?
What's our show called?
Talking guitars today.
So what's our show called? This is the Backseat playlist.
I have renamed the podcast called Talking Guitars today.
Talking guitars today. We're going to be off Spotify again for about 2 weeks because of the name change. Got to process, and then...
It was longer than
we'll
2
be back.
weeks. It was like 4.
It
And
was
now
not
there's
a month.
Now there's duplicates up there, so if you click on the one, you're only going to get the first 2 episodes, and if you click on the other, you'll get all the current episodes.
Oh, I love it.
It's
Maybe that's why our viewership has declined.
It's a hellhole.
Yeah, gotta love Spotify.
The internet is trash.
Yeah. I don't like Spotify. I've never liked Spotify. I hate all these people that are now hopping on the hate Spotify train.
When I've been
because of-
hating it for years.
Yeah, I've been hating it for years. You and me have talked about it. Their audio quality sucks.
I have one question.
Yeah. Yes, I'll go to prom with you.
Okay. Glad we got that out of the way.
We can be hired to be prom dates.
So you listen to podcasts on Apple Podcasts?
Yeah, everything but last podcast because they're only on.
Nope.
Oh no, they're back. They're back. Oh, I'm gonna switch back. Yeah.
When
I
you
listened to one podcast that shouldn't be named.
when you listen to podcasts on Apple Music, does yours like save where you listen to, or does it restart?
It saves where I listen to.
Motherfucker. Because mine doesn't. I'll be like 40. I listen to the whatever. It was the first. Whatever series is on last podcast right now.
MK Ultra.
Yeah. I listened to the first 50 minutes of that episode 3 times.
3 times.
Because I kept trying to like
Scroll forward.
scroll in till I was like, I know I heard this part and we've got to be near where I've stopped listening to, and then it'd be 25 more minutes of stuff I already listened to.
Oh man.
Yeah, I got to sort all my podcast stuff out, both as a
that's
consumer and distributor.
Yeah, I'll admit, I mean, I prefer Apple Music, but I don't like Apple's podcast app, and I don't like how it's 2 separate apps.
Yeah.
That's annoying. Like, I know that they've tried, because they used to have everything in one thing, and then they're like, well, now we're going to separate everything. So iTunes is different from Apple Music, which is different from the App Store, which is, like, I hate that crap. Like,
yeah,
Apple's the devil. I'm not defending them.
Yeah.
But out of all of the music apps, theirs sounds the best to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because they use a different codec information thing and compression algorithm.
No, I've been they don't pay artists enough for streams. I think they pay like half as much as what all the other platforms pay.
Ooh.
Except for Amazon.
You mean they pay 3/3 of a penny more less?
Yeah.
I mean, none of them pay artists diddly squat.
Yeah, but I can get on my high horse.
Yeah, I've always just been about
I will say
quality.
that Spotify has their podcast platform down, though.
Yeah, no, I like the way that it's presented, visually.
So I do have both on my phone. One, because I got to make playlists for our Spotify releases. But I do find myself, I will listen to podcasts more on Spotify because I don't need like super high fidelity.
Yeah, I don't need the high fidelity thing.
Because most of the time, if I'm listening to a podcast, it's in my headphones and I'm doing chores or
And it's just people talking.
fixing stuff at the theater, or it's on in my car or whatever. Like, I don't need detail.
Yeah. As long as it's not like...
And actually listening to really high detailed recordings of people talking is kind of awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want it to sound
a little nauseating.
good, but I'm sure like if we put out, like if we drop the money for like, and we're talking into like all U87s or fucking like AKG, like
waste.
vintage C12s, like
That would
hearing
be
all
such a waste.
the articulation of our voice would be awful.
I would travel into the future and smack the shit out of ourselves if we were using $8,000 microphones on a podcast.
Big flex, but okay.
Big flex, but
yeah, we should C12 tube C12s into a Behringer USB mixer.
I'm down.
Run it into the computer in mono.
We should do a whole series of like renting and like borrowing like the most expensive microphones we can, and then just run them into the most garbage of setups. Like,
could be fun. Could be fun.
I'd be down. people that we'd be borrowing from be like, you want to do what with my
You're gonna do what?
$13,000 microphone?
I want to take your C13 and run it into a Yamaha USB mixer and broadcast it with OBX.
Can we test the whole phantom power ribbon thing with your 30-year-old ribbon microphone?
Oh, absolutely.
Let's see how much voltage it takes to pop that son of a bitch.
4. It takes 4 volts.
4?
I don't know.
Really? I was gonna say
No, I was just
only
making that
4.
up.
I'm like 48 will fucking kill it then.
Oh, yeah. Kill your ribbons, people.
Kill your ribbons, especially the ones that your daughter brings home from her competition. Screw those things. Throw them away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shaun White didn't get a ribbon. Apparently, he didn't place.
Wait, he's still doing the Olympics?
Yeah, it was his last run, and I don't
Oh.
think he. I think he came in 4th.
Is he not? I mean, to be fair, I don't pay attention to the Olympics,
Yeah.
so I have no idea. The only thing I heard, because when I was on the treadmill at the gym, it's got the little TV on it, and it just whatever the channel was they were talking about some like 16-year-old or 15-year-old Russian skater girl got popped for doping, but then the Olympic Committee was like, well, she took the test during Christmas time, and we just now got it back, and we don't want to hassle her with going through all this stuff. She can't defend herself right now, so we're gonna let her, skate. And I'm like, I mean, I personally don't have any problem with athletes doping, but like, if you're gonna have this rule, and then you're gonna be like, well, we don't want Russia to attack us, like, go screw yourself.
Do you find it weird when people get like all uppity about when they find out that like athletes are cheating? Because I just assume that like every athlete cheats.
Yeah, I just assume. I mean, I mean, it's not to say that they're not all superhuman. I mean, like they're all the best of the best, but then they're even better because they all dope. They're all doing something.
They'd be like, I can't believe he would do that. Like, I can. Like,
why wouldn't you? If you thought you could get away with it at that level, like, of course you're gonna try to be the best.
Yeah.
I think we should, I was talking about this with somebody the other day. I was like, I think they should just set up like a standard list of approved, performance enhancing drugs that okay, we know these ones are the least likely to kill you or cause irreparable harm. Like, we'll have some type of morality to it where it's like, okay, yeah, we're not going to allow you just inject yourself with
God knows what.
Yeah, God knows what. Well, we won't. At least we won't condone it.
Yeah.
But we'll say you can use this, Anavar and all these other things, and I forget what they're all called. I was gonna say codeine. I was like, wait, that's not.
Yeah, they should take codeine before they play. It'd be awesome.
It just inject everybody with ketamine before they do shit.
Not even sports can beat the drug war.
Oh yeah, nothing can.
I was watching one of those insider things on YouTube when it was just a former undercover drug enforcement officer from London was on. And he's like, we did the biggest drug bust in history. And then I realized that this was only going to stop cocaine being distributed in this neighborhood for 2 days.
And he's probably 5 hours.
We spent millions of dollars on this.
Millions of taxpayer
dollars. But we'll get off that. This is not the time for political rantings. This is the time for bad guitar player rantings.
Let's talk about it. Guitars. I play the instrument. I like the instrument.
I own 2 of them. One of them, 2 of them. I own
a couple.
A couple.
We talked about last time we talked about instruments. We talked about bass. I'd say general rule of thumb is it's a little similar.
The guitar is just a tiny bass with slightly more strings.
Yeah. I don't think we need to rehash everything. I know one of the things that I think we can kind of gloss by a couple things, in that with bass it's very similar to guitar, that different strings are going to cause different sounds. I always prefer, unless you're doing unless you're particularly going for that sound, I always prefer new strings, fresh strings always, unless you're going for a folk thing where you really want it to sound really rustic and very dirty almost, that kind of old dirty folky sound.
If again, it's okay to break that piece of advice if it's intentfully creative, but don't more often than not.
But don't be like, man, why are my guitars not cutting through the mix? And you've done everything but put new strings on the guitar because you're lazy. Then it's come on,
that's the $14 fix. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, fresh guitar strings can completely change the tone. You're cranking that treble knob in the presence. You're like, man, it's just not lifting the way I want it to. Yeah, because those strings are 3 years old and they're covered in dirt. Yeah. It sounds horrible. Oh man,
come on, bro.
But for recommendations, I think last time when I talked about strings, I think I said elixirs for bass. I love elixirs on guitar as well. Those are really, really awesome. But
studio and live, because I think you said
studio and live.
You like elixirs live, but other things for recording.
Honestly, I've been playing a set for the last 2 weeks now. I've done a little bit of tracking just myself on the guitar, and like they hold up in the studio too. Like it's more of the elixirs are more of a feel thing, I think, for a lot of people because they're coated.
Yeah.
Doesn't bother me. I'm not like that really sensitive about anything that I play, whereas some people are. So if you're really like, ooh, it doesn't feel like metal, like, no, it is, but it's just coated. They have another version. They've got the nanowebs, which are like the really coated ones, and then I think they have the polywebs and something else, where it's like slightly less coated and it's supposed to feel more natural. So for the, I'm gonna use this slang term, but for the boomers, that you looked at me like, what are you about to say? You're like, oh god, what's he gonna say? We have to start over again. I'm also a big fan of the NYXLs by D'Addario.
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of those.
I'm gonna Americanize it. Is it D'Addario? I always say D'Addario. D'Addario.
I don't know.
It
always makes me think of my favorite actress, Alexandra Daddario.
I've always.
If you're listening to this, Alexandra, you should come on the podcast sometime and talk audio with us.
What are you listening to?
Yeah, what are you listening to? Tell us about the boom guy on set of your latest movie.
I like D'Addario across the board. D'Addario strings, Evans drum heads. ProMark sticks aren't my favorite drumstick company, but they're my second favorite. Mm-hmm. I like Planet Waves cables. And
I love Planet Waves cables.
Yeah.
Those are some of my favorites.
Does Planet Waves make XLR cables, or are they strictly instrument cables? They should get in the XLR game.
Yeah, they should. Didn't Warm Audio get into the XLR game?
I don't know.
They've got some like gold-plated cables. That's like the thing. Like, so I'll just like cross this off right there. I know somebody in my life's gonna give me shit about you didn't talk about the cables. You didn't talk about what cables to use. And like, I don't know. As long as it's not broken, like cables for me are the last thing on the list for guitar tone.
Watched a YouTube video where the guy had like a $50 instrument cable and like a $12 instrument cable. And the way he broke it down, he's like, the only variation I'm hearing is slight variation in my performances. Like, I picked this note a little harder, so that's why it's a little...
The only thing that I've read that didn't seem like just somebody on a forum, the only studies I've done, showed that I think the higher-end cables are better past like a certain length. Like I think it's like 50 feet or 100 feet. Once you get back there, yes, the higher end cables, and it's more so a quality control issue because they're more expensive. They check the cable.
Yeah,
and it's more likely to be consistent all the way through. Whereas cheaper cables, once you get past that like obnoxious length of 50 to 100 foot, is when like it might not be as good. But under that, which if you're plugging your guitar into your amplifier with like that long of a cable, I don't know. I mean, I can't even. I've never used 100 foot, even to go from my upstairs to my basement. Like, I'm always under 50 foot. So, I don't know. I don't buy the whole cable thing. I think it's an old school thing.
I mean, if like your more expensive cables are going to be probably a thicker gauge.
Yeah.
When I buy into that, like, there's certain, like,
more durable. Yeah.
Some of the cables that I have, I know we've brought them out to live gigs because we've had to.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't daily. Yeah.
If I had the extra money, of course, I would buy really nice cables. They look nice. They feel nice. It helps. It's great. But out of everything involved in the guitar chain, like, I would just buy cables that aren't broken. That's all I care about. Like, that's the last thing on my list. Like, oh, I've got $40 left. I'll buy a couple like $10 cables that work.
I mean, like, I don't buy into the whole like it's a Megami gold plated. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like. If that's the biggest concern in your mix, then either A, your mix is completely botched, or B, it's so good that little difference doesn't even matter.
Yeah,
Like, you're either at the bottom of the barrel or you are the cream of the crop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also like with like, we're going to get blasted for this, but it's also like the whole tone wood discussion with guitars. I'm like, yeah, I guarantee you there's probably some slight difference, but at the end of the day, it's like, is it really compared to all the other things that go on with the guitar and you're playing?
I don't buy into
your chain. It's like,
thing. I will acknowledge.
Except for an acoustic guitar. Acoustic guitar, completely different. Electric guitar.
We'll do an acoustic episode later on.
But I just meant that in terms of the tone wood.
The electric guitar. Yeah, no. New strings, pickups, player, pedals, amp, cab.
With guitar pickups, you've got humbuckers and single coils.
I like
P90s.
a P90.
Yeah.
I like a P90.
You can coil tap your humbuckers, coil split, coil tap, whichever you would call it. All kinds of different tones.
There was I think it was like Seymour Duncan in the day made those like, it was the size of a humbucker, but it had in like so many options where you could like, it would be a P90, it could be a rail pickup, you could split it. It was insane. I forget what they were called.
That's kind of like the Fishman Fluents that have come out in like the last few years that are really popular. That you can like, they've got the chips on the back that you can like dial into different settings and stuff like that. It's pretty trippy. So unlike the bass, I feel like, whereas like with the bass, I said like, to me the tone from the actual bass and the pickups is so much more important than the amp, especially because you're taking a DI, and I feel like just you get so much more tone because most of the time your bass is going to be relatively clean. Whereas guitar, you've got a wide variation of different tones with guitar. You've got clean tones, dirty tones, distorted tones, high gain tones, and like I feel like
it's the snare drum of the stringed instruments.
Yeah. It's like I feel like your amp and your pedals, if you're a pedal person, are a little more important. Like I feel like if you're playing through a Marshall JCM 800, it's gonna sound like a JCM 800, no matter whether you're playing a Tele through it, or a Strat through it, or a Les Paul. Like, yes, all three of those are completely different sounding guitars. There will be a massive difference, but overall, it's still going to sound like a JCM 800.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things where I do feel like I almost feel like the speaker in the cab does more to the tone of the guitar than almost anything else. Matter of personal opinion.
Yeah. I would say like the head and cab are like 50-50 because you can completely transform the tone of that
like
amp.
with bass I feel like the instrument itself is 60% of the tone, but with guitar I feel like the cab and amp is 60% of the tone.
I agree. I agree.
There's a little bit more leeway, and I think just it's so important for the bass because there's a shitload of low end in there because it's a low end instrument, so you need it to be clean from the instrument, whereas guitar, I mean, really, there's really nothing in the double digits frequency-wise in my guitar mix, so.
Yeah. I also feel like with just the way that guitar is generally presented in mixes, I also feel like you've got a lot more leeway and wiggle room with guitar, whereas bass, it's like, it's so integral. Even if you're not mixing your bass to a place where it's like a clearly audible defined thing, it's still that low end, like you said, like those double digit numbers are holding the entire mix together along with the drums. Like, it's so funny. I really want to be a guitar player, but I feel like it's like the least important thing in the entire mix.
There's a lot of mixes where the guitars is just kind of noise in the far sides of the mix, which is, it's like really odd. Yeah, it's strange.
But I mean, there's a whole ton you could. I mean, I don't know. Guitar is guitar. I don't really know where to really dive in more with. I mean, you've got all kinds of different amps. I mean, all of them do various different things. Of course, you've got your clean amps. Fender puts out a bunch of good bluesy, country, twangy amps. You've got your Marshalls, which are that British high gain down to dirty tones. You've got Mesa, which is metal, Angle, which is another metal type amplifier.
Orange, if you will.
Orange, yeah.
Orange.
Those are great. Those are a little bit of everything you can do.
Big fan of the Orange amplification.
With cabinets, you've got various different sizes: 2x12s, 1x12s, 4x12s.
I like a 2x12.
I like a 2x12 as well. It's just
gives you the option for kind of like, I don't like to double mic a single speaker. It gets kind of weird.
Yeah, I don't either. I generally don't.
So I'd like at least 2x12 gives you the option for.
The thing with 4x12s, I haven't had a lot of opportunity to do this, is that if you've got, I have an empty cab that I'm planning on putting 4 different speakers in.
Yeah.
That I can mic each different speaker and then have a choice to blend various different tones.
Yeah.
So I like that for 4x12. But yeah, I mean, we've thought about it before. Unless you're playing on a really big stage for live, 4x12s are a little overkill. I mean, if you're playing a big enough stage, go for it, do it. Like, it's awesome. But if you're playing the club in your local town, chances are 2x12 is going to be just good enough for you. And then in the studio, it's like,
I don't know, man.
Unless you're 4x12, like you don't need a 4x12. Like if you're in the studio and you're like, oh man, I want that that old school big 80s ballsy tone. Like you don't need a 4x12 in the studio.
You can
like
get there with it.
if you have one, great, but don't think that like you're missing out because you don't have it. Like you can get that tone great just from a 2x12 or shit, even a 1x12 if you've got one.
I like single speaker combos too. Like
Mesa Boogie makes a great 1x12 speaker. It looks like a 2x12 because it's like such a big cabinet, but it's just one speaker in there.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Gives you less things to screw up.
Yeah,
Takes
right?
away options where you just be like,
that
well, I know where I'm
sometimes.
putting the mic.
You know.
Oh, rant! I mixed some shitty guitar tones over the weekend. Let me tell you. I'll tell you what.
I tell you what.
I tell you what.
I
I soloed up the one guitar mic or amp that I had to mic, and I soloed it in my ears, and I just handed it to Bob. He didn't even make it to his ear. It just he just threw it at me. And he's like, "What the hell is that?" And I was like, "It's that motherfucker's guitar tone."
What was this person playing through?
It was a Silverface Fender something or other.
I feel like
I love Fender guitars.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a huge Fender amp person.
I only like their old school ones, like the Deluxe, the Champ.
Yeah.
Any of their more modern
The
stuff.
ones that Nick and Drew have are both great. But no, this was the more modern. I didn't pay attention, but it was just like, it sounded like.
Do you know, was it a solid state or was it
No, I'm pretty sure it was tube.
Okay. Even their newer tube stuff, like unless it's like a reissue, like a deluxe reissue or any of the ones where they're like, yo, we're just doing the same thing over and over again. Fender, and this kind of goes with a lot of the cheaper amps, like that's why I say, like, get yourself a really great amp and then a $200 guitar and set it up nice because cheaper amps just have this brittle sound no matter what.
There's a lot of
there's this weird, I mean, what's your experience with that? Like, I hate to shit on like cheap gear, but like with guitar amps, like distortion has to be warm. Like,
It's the name of the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it sounded like a chainsaw going through an overdrive pedal. Like,
oh God.
I think this is where this band causes me anger. Like, this is where most of my frustration comes from. I mixed them once at something, and you've seen the setup that we roll with. The room that I was in, it's not really ideal for what's going on.
Yeah.
We have to run, subwoofers. We don't have enough of our smaller subwoofers to have all of them in the room, so we have to roll out the big boys.
Yeah.
So a couple years ago, this guy like cussed me out on stage because he's like, "I fucking told you to take that damn bass out of my monitor or out of my
gross.
And there was no bass in his monitor. He was just right directly behind the subwoofer.
Nice.
So since then, I haven't directly been mean to this guy, but I haven't necessarily like gone out of my way to be like,
"Hey, how you doing?
Happy
buddy?"
you're here."
Yeah.
Do
I know this band?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
I told you they sucked once, and you were like, "Yeah, I see it."
I don't know. That's a lot of bands.
Yeah. So they played, and the same thing happened. But he also has a very unmixable guitar tone, where if it can't cut through the mix out front, like there's no way it's coming back through a speaker audibly. Like,
yeah.
So it's,
What do you think about guitar? Oh, so this is a guitar tone. I was listening to this album recently, and I was like, God, I love the music. I think it's, but the guitar tone is just unbearable to me. Pantera's album, Cowboys from Hell.
Yeah.
That album, like, and I get that at the time it was pioneering. It was like, this is so different, but and I love that band. Like, I love those songs. I love watching their live videos, but that album, I listened to the other day, I was like, whoo, man, you can't listen. I can't listen to it very loud. It's got to be like, conversation level volume, because we're just like, wow, those guitar tones are just, that's, and I feel like so many people still don't understand that, like, that was a time period, and so they still try to go for that guitar tone. It's like, but that's not what those guitars sounded like live. Like, that was just not the greatest of...
No, there's... Yeah, I think people hear like one specific thing on a recording. Like they have one, like this guitar's tone stood out to me. So obviously it's the best. And it was obviously like placed in there for an effect.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe this is me overthinking it, in Black Honey by Thrice, and the chorus is like, sticking my hand through a swarm of bees. The guitars kind of get overdriven a little bit. They sound like a swarm of bees. Cool effect.
Yeah.
Probably should not be your bass guitar tone, but not like bass, like slap it, but like
slap it a bass.
It should not be the foundation of your guitar tone.
Did I tell you I watched that movie again the other night?
Did you?
Yeah,
nice.
I love that movie.
It should be a setting for like a bump in a chorus, but like it shouldn't be the overall thing. Like it just a good platform guitar tone is necessary. But this dude's So
did I tell you about that band that I almost worked with? That I think we've talked about this, but their guitar tone, the guy that they had worked with before, had, I don't know if he used like an aux box or a torpedo, but he captured their amp heads, and was supposed to. I don't think this engineer knew what he was. A new, very beginning guy. Like I'm not gonna knock him.
Don't do this.
This is just a learn from this moment.
Learn from dude's mistakes.
But this person didn't know that they were then supposed to put like a cabinet IR on it, or then run it back through a cabinet. Yeah. So it was just the captured amp head tone, and then mixed it onto the record.
Have you ever bypassed?
Oh, it's horrible. Go home. Like if you got anybody that's listening, if you guys have like
an amp simulator, or something.
Bypass the cabinet section and just listen to the head. And it's awful.
If you have a digital audio workstation, I think it's Black Rooster Audio makes. They have something called. They have an orange Rocker Verb 30 plugin where you can take the cab out, and you just hear the amp. It's free. It's a pretty good plugin.
I tried to explain it when I met with this band when we were talking about doing an album. They were like, "Yeah, we weren't really happy with the guitar tones," and I was like, "Oh," and then I listened. And I was like,
"Oh,
yeah, no shit, because that's not a guitar tone. That's just
dudes.
That's electricity."
Dude that I mixed, his amp sounded like if you took the speaker out.
Always. Also, this goes for bass cabs too. If you're recording a bass cab, always double check your cabs. For like loose screws, loose magnets, anything like that. Don't go in there with a rattly ass cab and try to mic that.
I think that was a talking point. It was like, why do bass players always come in with something broken on the cab? Not every bass player, but
I had a client come in one time with a really nice Fender Deluxe, like old vintage one, and he was carrying it, and I was hearing this rattling, and I was like, is there a spring reverb in there? Am I hearing a spring? But then I took a look at it, and the magnet on the back of the speaker was loose. And I was like, well, we can't. I mean, we could try to use this, but it also then just lost some of its gusto.
Just inspect your gear.
Yeah.
I think it's really more about just finding a good platform. Like I said, like a good foundational tone.
Yeah.
That. Also, I feel, and this is my like engineer talking, the scoopy, like I call it the bedroom guitar tone, where there's like no mids.
Yeah.
And it sounds cool in the room, for sure.
Yeah. But in a mix, it's kind of like you can still get that feeling through other means with the guitar. You don't have to just completely smiley face it.
I think a lot, and I was intentfully listening to a lot of guitar tones because I had some free time this afternoon. I got out of work earlier, which was awesome. Set up for the show that's coming in tomorrow. For the most part, I think. Knock on wood. It'll all be cool.
I don't have any wood.
Nope, all plastic.
All plastic and felt.
But even it's not so much that the guitars are like that crazy boosted in the low end. It's just like some guitar tones don't have a lot of high end in the verses and stuff. And there's a talking point, like we'll talk about miking later, but like when the vocals are in, I like a darker guitar sound because it gives all the air to the vocal. And then when the vocals come out, you like, even with like, I was listening to a Soundgarden song and I forget which one it was, but it was just like a disgusting amount of boosted low end. It was off of I think it might have been off of Super Unknown.
Oh yeah, that was really dark.
So like the main guitars that are up close are like super bass heavy, but there's accent lines that are all upper mid range. So it does leave space for the things in the mix.
I love that. I love when arrangements allow for breaking up different guitar tones. That you might have like your foundational tone might be very prominent in one frequency area, and then you have these highlighting parts come in that then fill out the frequency spectrum.
Yeah, but also it's also one of those where like that's definitely a choice that they made in the process of recording. Like,
that wasn't.
I don't think they rolled in with that guitar
knowledge.
tone. Yeah, and I think there's just a lot of. Yeah, I was just like, I've mixed. I just like, oh God, you see a guitar cab rolling in on stage, and you go to put a mic in front of it, and you just see that it's like bass is at 7, trebles at 8, and mids are at 0, and it's just like, well, I could mic the center of the speaker, but that's gonna be so piercing and bright. But like I can't even put it on the dust cap.
Yeah. So where do you mic differently, position wise? We don't have to go into necessarily the microphones just yet. We'll just talk about position wise. For live versus the studio, do you mic the guitar differently?
Yeah.
How do you do it for live?
For live, I am getting that microphone as close to the speaker as possible. Just because
I do the same thing in the studio though. I like getting it as close as possible.
I can't risk the bleed from other things taking over the guitar sound.
Yeah. So
and I'm going to aggressively high pass a guitar sound live anyway.
Now, how about like the position with like on the speaker? Like, are you like?
I'm going to split the cone and the dust cap 50-50 live.
Okay.
If their settings are whack, I might go a little off axis with something. Like if they have a lot of bass in their sound, I will split it kind of like, if this is the center of the speaker, right? And I know this is a bad example for people listening. My normal thing is going to be like that, like 50% of, more than likely it's a 57. 50% on the center of the speaker, 50% on the dust cap.
Yeah.
Microphone, maybe about a business card's width away from the grill cloth or whatever. Yeah. If it's a really bassy guitar tone, I will mic the opposite side of that same thing. Just because I need some of the brightness, but hopefully some of that low end will kind of miss the microphone too. Yeah. So those are my two like standard, like I'm going to start there. If I get a sound check, which is rare, I will make a decision. But more often than not, I found those two positions can get me through.
They're pretty consistent.
Yeah.
You know what you're going to get out of them because in live, you're not really looking to reinvent the wheel.
Well, there's also so much amp bleed that's going to, in the venues that I'm in, like,
exactly.
I'm not.
You're going to get a lot of stage volume.
Yeah. I mean, I mixed some sets over the weekend where I didn't have guitar going through the PA at all. Like,
Now, how does that differ from your approach then in the studio?
Studio, I'm usually going a little further back.
Okay.
But my taste in guitars, I don't like a whole lot of low end in them. I have that kind of old school guitar sounds where they just sound like fucking band passed. Not all the time, but for certain sounds. Yeah. So, I mean, my general starting point.
Do we have to give that obligatory like it all depends
genre dependent? No, I mean I will start with what I call the 50-50. Spot on the guitar cab, but in the studio I'm an inch or 2 inches away from the speaker cloth because I want to get rid of some of that proximity effect because I can always add that low end in with an EQ.
True.
Like I'd rather do additive EQ than subtractive EQ. So I will start like that's with any cab I'm miking up. I'm going to start there and I'm going to listen to what I'm hearing and then I will make a choice from there because I don't have a whole lot of guitar stuff. I'm not a guitar player, so I don't really have time to like, not really time, but like anytime I'm miking up someone's guitar cap, it's not mine. I don't know it as well. Yeah. So it's like, with my drums, I can tell you where I point the mic, how I have them tuned. Yeah. Good to go. That's what I record the most is me playing drums. So with a guitar, I will start there, and then I will let my ear kind of dictate what I need.
Yeah, I mean, need brighter, need it less, yada, yada.
More often than not, I am still doing a bright mic, dark mic.
Yeah, I do a bright mic, dark mic.
1 and 2 thing, and usually one of them is 75% of my guitar tone, and then the other part is just there to emphasize what's missing. Yeah. It's not really a 50-50 split.
I forget what engineer did it, but he did all the did a lot of the Megadeth, Metallica era, like 90s era stuff. And I follow that approach a lot lately with a lot of my rock and metal guitars where I've got one microphone dead center on the speaker, and then I've got another one on a different speaker where it's like on the cone itself, like dead on the cone, and then kind of blend those to taste. I never run into phase issues with that. I also try to get it as close as possible to the cab, or to the speaker. Like what did this guy say? I think he said, he's like, if I could cut the grill cloth off of everybody's amp, I would. And I would get it as damn close as I could. And I like that. I think it's a really aggressive sound. Now, if I'm going for more, and then if I'm going for spacier guitars or more roomy guitars, like less biting,
I should say
I'll definitely do more of a roomy sound where like I'll be, probably, 6 to 7 inches away from the speaker itself, to get a little more of that air, a little more of that room ambiance.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like a heavy guitar, I'm going to get closer.
Yeah.
Because I feel like for heavy stuff, you don't really want a whole lot of room stuff because what gives it that aggression is it sounding like it's right in your ear. So, but as I've said before, I don't really record that much metal or anything. I could do it, like, if a metal band wanted to work with me, like, cool, yeah, we can do this. But it's just not, like, completely my vibe. I like heavier stuff, but I like down-tempo heavy stuff where you can kind of get away with that more
open sound, yeah.
Yeah. So I can afford to get slightly further away from the cab and let the amp breathe a little bit.
What's your, if you could only have... And it can't be the 57. I would say if you can only have one guitar mic, what would it be?
I mean, are we given the fact that the 57 is just going to be in everybody's toolbox?
Yeah, because the 57 sounds good on guitar no matter what you do.
Yeah.
But you can't pick that one because it's like, okay, because I feel like
it's a given that
it's a given. Like if you could only have one microphone for guitar, you'd probably pick the 57 because it's pretty damn versatile.
Yeah.
But so I'm going to say you can't pick that one. You got to go outside the box. If you only have one? I think for me, it would be any variation of the 414, whether it's the 414 or the 214. I would prefer the 414 because then I've got multiple polar patterns then cheat my way into having like, room sound and direct sound and the figure eight or an omni. I like the 414 or any large diaphragm condenser with multiple polar patterns. I think you can do a lot of cool stuff with guitar.
It's just from like microphone, like if I could pick any mic or just one from my personal mic locker.
We'll just say any.
Probably a good ribbon.
Okay.
Maybe a 121 if I could afford it. Or
cool.
I haven't personally used them, but those SE Voodoo ribbon mics, I've heard good things. They are a little brighter than the average ribbon, but
okay.
But yeah, and I like a ribbon on guitar cab.
Yeah.
Anything from my locker, I like the 421 a lot.
Yeah, the 421's great.
It's like sneaky good. That SE Electronics like kick drum condenser, the X1D. Mm-hmm. It's a 20 to 20 mic.
Oh, nice.
So that thing sounds cool on guitar cabs too.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean probably a 121.
Yeah.
That would be my pick.
Yeah, no, I like ribbons. I haven't had I haven't gotten to use them a lot. I've got the one.
The 110, right? 101? Royer.
I have no idea.
It's not the 121. It's the little bro.
It's the little boy.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick a good ribbon mic.
Hell yeah. What about what type of guitar? I know. Well, I think I know what guitar. If you could have one guitar,
just body style or just.
Yeah, we'll go with body style.
A Telecaster.
Telecaster.
I'm a sucker for a Tele. Like it's just.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm gonna have to go with what I have. SG. SG is my favorite. I do like. But I also, it's so funny. I'm not like a Gibson fanboy, but for some reason, like to me, they nailed the body shapes, man. The SG, I love the SG.
The Les Paul.
I'm not a huge Les Paul fan. I want to own one. I want to have one just because it's like if you're gonna have a studio, like I feel like
I like the
be able to have the classics.
There are some bands that have the one guy's playing the Les Paul and the other person's playing a Telecaster, and it just...
Oh, that's a great blend. That's a great blend.
I hear there's something wrong with it. It's funny. I think it's like the G strings don't always sync up in tuning between a Les Paul and a Telecaster style.
I probably imagine the G string doesn't line up on any guitars. Unless you get a wound G. But I'm a big fan of wound Gs.
Yeah, I think that's some people's workarounds.
Yeah, a wound-G is the way to go. And then people are like, you can't bend as easily. Well, get stronger fingers then.
Yeah, I like the Telecaster because you can have one, like, I'm pretty sure that, like, Jay Moss of Defeater used the same Telecaster that I own.
Dude, I love Tellies.
You know, Jim Root,
Yeah.
throwing EMGs in that. You can make them semi-hollow. I think the guy for Jimmy Eat World, his signature Telecaster is a semi-hollow with P90s in it. Like, that's...
I'm also a big fan of the Gibson ES 335s.
I do like
I
those.
think it's the 337 is the bigger one. Or is it 36?
That sounds right.
I don't know. Whatever the bigger one is.
33?
Yeah, I don't think it's 33.
There's
Whatever the
30
bigger bodied one is, I love those. I want to own one, but I can't afford one. They're all like $3,000.
Yeah, I don't...
Those are my favorites too, besides SGs.
I like SG. Yeah, I just like good instruments. Like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Like, it's like I said with the bass. Like, I've never seen... It's not like I see a Strat coming out of a guitar case and I'm like, here we fucking go. God damn it.
You should. Next time you see a Strat, you should be like, nope, we're done. Session over.
No
Strats
like,
on my doll.
We've talked about, I feel like the guitar shape itself really is player dependent, That's just like certain people prefer certain body shapes.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
No, the shape has nothing to do with it, in my opinion. I mean,
kind
of.
but... it's like... I always call it like the threshold of acceptability. It's like as long as it works and it doesn't like there's not like a whistling in the pickups or something. Like
or
that's
like microphonic
super,
or something like that, and they're whoop.
And it's intonated properly. We're good.
Oh yeah.
Like I would like to get some Rickenbackers one day.
Oh man, that'd be great.
I've never heard one up close that I've been like involved in, but I've seen bands that have them. Like I like that sound. They're punchy. It's awesome. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's I like how these days, like I feel like because of all the different eras we've experienced with music is like you can use any guitar and any amp for any genre. I feel like guys are the recent last 10 years people started playing tellies in metal and it's awesome and it's just super cool and it's like
if you're gonna do the single coil, like I like hot single coil pickups playing heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Make sure you have a noise gate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, no matter what, if you're playing heavy music, have a noise gate. That's just a noise band.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it's so... I think that's the kind of the cool thing about guitar and bass is that I feel like for drums, it is more so genre dependent, with in terms of your setup. But I feel like with guitar and bass, like it's gotten to the point now where people have done so much stuff that everybody's ears have gotten used to. Like you could do whatever,
Yeah,
you could make a metal song with a Fender Blues Junior and a Telly, and it's like, yeah, man, you just crank it to 15,
cool,
and it's just distorting the speakers, and it's like, cool, it's metal now, like whatever.
I tuned my Telecaster to drop B once. I was like, I just want to hear this, and I was like, it sounds doomy as fuck.
Yeah, and it's like folk and country guys have been using Les Pauls and everything else for forever. Everybody, like I feel like every other genre of music has used every different thing. Well, I guess maybe in country music you don't hear anybody ripping a dual rec. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Somebody pointed out to me if some country guitar player is ripping a dual rack, on stage.
I mixed a bro country band on Saturday, and I was like, this is gonna be fun, dude. They had their stuff together.
Hell yeah.
The guy was playing the Neural DSP version of the.
He's got the Quad Cortex.
Yeah.
Oh man.
He was playing a PRS through that.
Nice.
Fucking.
Dude, those are awesome.
It was a little scary at first because I finished up my second to last band, and then Bob Stage took over, and the one guy was like, "Hey, the band is in the hallway. They have some questions," and I was like, "I really have to pee. Like, can I do that first?" And then I was in the bathroom. I was like, "Fuck, them having question means they brought their own drum kit," and I was like, "Wait, they're the last band. That means our third person can just pack the drums up.
Yeah,
that makes it easier." And I was like. And that means they needed in-ears. Like, shit. I was like, I don't have the outputs for in-ears. And I was like, they don't have a sound check. And the guy's like, we have in-ears. And I was like, that might be a tough swing. He's like, we have our own in-ear rack. So you would plug into our stuff and we would send a split to you and a split goes to our in-ears. And I was like, we can do that.
Yeah.
Let's go. They had it. No monitors on stage. This band had it together.
And they were mixing themselves? They mixed themselves in their ears?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So everything was how they wanted it.
Hell yeah.
And then I just basically all I had to do was level out, my inputs and their backing tracks.
How did they get their drums in their ears too, or were you not miking up drums?
They had drums in the ears.
Oh, nice.
They didn't have overheads or anything.
No.
They had a talkback mic from the drummer that they kind of pointed at the kit that didn't go out front. It was like, this is just for us, and we will use this as a trash mic for just drum ambience in our ears. And I was like, this is perfect. Dude, we struck and pinned them in 20 minutes.
Hell yeah. Were they running the guitar player you said was running the Quad Cortex? Was he running to a cab, or were you just running that direct to you?
Direct to me.
How did it sound?
Good. We had to split the console, so my stage was only the left output, and Bob's stage was only the right output, so I had to mix them in
mono,
complete mono, which their guitar tones were a little too similar, so it was kind of hard to get separation, but once I got it working, it kind of locked together. I would have liked to have a stereo mix, but I also just consider mixing in small room just weird mono anyway.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you put like 2 mics on a single speaker and pan them left and right. It's not really stereo. It's goofy mono.
Goofy mono. One of that shirt idea.
You're like it's technically stereo, but you're like,
oh, I have a great joke, but
you're riding Mongo or you're pushing Mongo, where you're pushing with your.
Remind me to tell you my goofy mono joke after the show.
You're pushing with your front foot on the skateboard. Like,
oh my god,
it's but the guy was playing a Les Paul, or not a Les Paul, a PRS SE to the quad.
I don't like PRS guitars.
I know you're not a fan.
That's the one thing. I see somebody pull out a PRS guitar. I'm like, here we go.
Here we go.
I know what kind of band you're going to be.
And then the other guy had a humbucker telly. So I think if I could have panned them out a little bit in the speakers, the mix would have come together. But
it was just tough.
It wasn't. I mean, all I had to do for this band once I got levels set was like maybe trim some stuff. I didn't have to. I mean, I had boosted the kick drum and made it pump and punch, but like all I was doing was babysitting the C4 on vocals as a de-esser.
Yeah.
And a D-boomer, if you will.
D-boomer.
And then I was mainly just...
That's what I call COVID, the D-boomer.
Oh. Woo! No, all I was doing was the fun stuff, where I was babysitting my bus compressor, and I was changing reverb and delay times.
Nice.
That was it.
Yeah, I love when bands, especially when we get into the studio, if they already know that, like, hey, we should have slightly different guitar tones that are complementary so that you get this left and right depth. Because if you can get away with doing the same exact tone, like not literally copy and paste, but like, same exact tone, same guitar, just 2 different takes. That's cool. It's got a sound to it, but I think you get a lot more depth, a lot more movement when you have a slightly different complementary tone.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as like painting. Like, if you're using the same shade of green for everything, there's going to be no depth to your visually to something. So, like, I think a lot of guitar players are pretty good at finding their bass tone, like their foundation, their foundational tone for guitar, but they're not good at finding a tone that complements it.
I love, one of my favorite complementaries is a Marshall JCM 800 and a Bogner Ubersol. Those two together, that whole sound, or switch it out with like a Mesa and a Marshall, or a Fender and a Mesa. Just, stuff that it's like, they're different characteristically, that even if you dial them in almost identical, they're still going to have varying characteristics. Like, you're never going to get a Marshall to sound like a Mesa Boogie and vice versa. Like, they're, so I think if you can in the studio, use 2 different amp heads. Don't just dial in different settings because, I mean, unless you completely change the cabinet, the guitar, and your pedal situation. Yeah. Like, if you're running a very similar setup for, through a Marshall's going to sound like a Marshall, no matter what you really do. So I think having 2 different amp heads, even if it's just a 1 guitar player band, doing your stereo tracking with different setups is going to get you farther. Yeah,
it's. I feel it's a real overlooked kind of thing, and even mixing, like even live, I feel like bands, like the guitar players, will have tones that are very, very similar. Yeah, and it's like there just needs to be.
There just needs to be something, different. Like the way me and Matt have it set up is His guitar tone is a little bit. Actually, his guitar tone is brighter than mine. Mine's a lot darker.
Well, you're more of the rhythm.
Exactly. Yeah, because I'm more rhythm. He's more lead, and so they're both high gain. They're both. I think his is based off of a 5150 and a Mesa blend, and then mine I'm doing a Friedman and an Uberschall blend. And so they're both by themselves. You're like, oh yeah, they're similar tones, but they complement each other really nicely. I think we still have got dialing in to do, but they're you could tell there's two distinctly different guitar tones.
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be like, whoa, look at how drastically different those guitar tones are. But it does need to. There needs to be contrast in order to get the separation in the mix. Yeah, it's strange.
Very, very, very.
I mean, unless you're like going for that, like we're a tight rhythmic band. Like Gojira, their guitar tones are similar, but the whole point of the guitars in that band really are just to reinforce what the drums are doing.
Yeah, they're not meant to like pop out and go check out this crazy riff. It's just the whole thing is just this moving wall.
It's a wall of rhythm in that band, which is why I love them so much. But even then, they get crazy. He's doing some like twangy Telecaster stuff for like lead stuff. So,
dude, the Gojira Neural DSP plugin is one of my. It's my like go-to amp plugin because there's so many different options with that one. Yeah, I love that. Love that. Love it. Love it.
I mean, but their guitar tones aren't like drastically different. No. It's but they do it well. Like they do the similar guitar tone well.
Yeah. And I think it really helps because of their style of music. Like we said, it's that rhythmic wall. Kind of like Meshuggah,
Yeah. It's those bands aren't like if you're playing really fast, you don't need a whole lot of low end in your like I really love the Volition album by Protest the Hero. Those guitars are thin, and I don't mean thin in a bad way, but there's so much like
because they've got so much going on that you've got to cut them. I mean, I think almost all of their albums, their guitar tones are all high.
I listened to
Kazai is still my favorite.
The second album, Fortress.
Yeah.
Those guitars are pretty. I don't mean muffled in a bad way, but they are more
a little thicker.
They've got the Mesa sound without the treble boost. Like it's. It's fine, but the Volition one, it's like it's so those guitars are just band passed. Yeah. It's nothing but mid range. It's awesome, but for that style, it really works because they're playing really fast, a lot of intricate stuff. So they need that.
They're super busy.
But if they were running the Pantera tone, it would be like this is not.
Speaking
working.
of protest,
is not working.
One of my favorite concert videos ever is them. They're playing this festival. And it is dead. It looks like a dead festival. People are not grooving to them. And there's this.
Is it the one where they're playing on like the street corner?
Yeah. And there's this huge circle opened up for like a pit, and there are like three dudes that are like
just
kind of jogging around, and then eventually, like halfway through the song, they all just sit down and they start pretending to canoe. There's just these two dudes in the middle of this entire pit are just canoeing on the street. Rhodey's like in the midst of his alcoholism. The whole band just looks like they've been on the road for too long. They're just phoning the shit in, and these two guys in the crowd are just canoeing like, fuck it, man. This is what it is.
It's awesome.
It's great.
Yeah, but like that's, probably not a guitar tone that you would hear in the room and be like, that's great.
Yeah.
But it was a compromise to highlight their musicality.
I feel like sometimes, with bands that I feel like where you're not, when you've got very dense arrangements, so unlike Zeppelin or unlike Van Halen back in the day,
where
you
can get away with that.
You could do I feel like today with these dense arrangements, these crazy bands, like your tone might not sound amazing. There might not be like, this is the tone I want live. Like your live tone is going to be different than the studio because in the studio you've got to carve it out and make room for everything that's going on. Like we're talking about bands like Protest the Hero, where it's just like that tone. They played with different tones live because they've got, it's live and they can have a little more leeway with stuff. Whereas in the studio, it's like you've got to carve that stuff out.
Yeah, it has to fit the medium that that is being presented.
Like one of my favorite bands, Thank You Scientists, like they've got a violin player and they've got horns and other stuff like that. And it's like, the guitar is this one piece in this huge puzzle. And it's like that guitar tone by itself in the room. It's probably not like, oh, this is so sick. Listen to how huge it is. Like, no, it's pretty thin, but within the context of the mix.
You hear it in the mix and you're just like, this highlights the song.
Yeah, when it gets filled out by the bass and the drums, it's just like, the mix is huge.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like cooking,
Yeah.
Like if I just went upstairs and just grabbed random spices in my cabinet and just started like throwing it in. Like,
You look like you're like milking a really wide udder.
yep, really. If I did, if I just started
Punk band name, really wide udder.
wide udders. Find us on Spotify for
No, screw that. We're not on Spotify, man. We're wide udders. Check us out on Bandcamp.
Bandcamp. We have cassettes in our trunk. So
Come to the back of my car.
the less ingredients you put in, the more you can taste the spices.
Yeah.
So just something to think
Taste
about.
the power of the sun.
Yeah.
Cool. Should we?
There was a point to that, and I don't remember what it was.
I don't
It was
know.
just,
Like, we're tasting things now.
okay, it's like
Lick your guitar before you play it. That's the key.
one of your guitar tones needs to be sweet, the other one needs to be savory. It just
I dig it.
pairs well together. Salt and pepper.
Sweet and sour chicken, baby.
S&P that guitar tone up.
You want to talk about some of our favorite guitar tones?
Sure.
Yeah,
let's
we want to
do
bring it out. The
Boom.
playlist.
Dude, this is a quick episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you know what you like, you know what you like.
Oh, no, let's get it. We didn't talk about specific mic. I mean, we talked about when you're miking up a cab. Like, let's
I just take my iPhone and I
hold it. We completely ignored the miking of the guitar cabs.
we didn't completely ignore it. We talked about it a little bit, but
we can go into a little bit more depth.
yeah. I mean, I love the 57 with anything else combo. Like, I love a 57 with a 414, 57 with a 421, 57 with a I like a lot of that. I was a big fan of the 57 with another angled 57 off axis.
I like that for heavier stuff.
Yeah, I think that's always
I
really
wouldn't
cool.
use that. Do you room mic your stuff?
If I'm doing very busy, dense, like metal, then no.
Yeah,
but if I'm
that's where
doing
I'm
like
at with it.
rock music, where I'd say like rock music in the vein of like Foo Fighters, that kind of thing, and their various relations. Like, I definitely would do a room mic.
Yeah.
I might not use it in every part of the song, but like if it's a big chorus, in and out, like I'll add that in there and really, because I think it. Especially if you track it in the same room where you do your drums, which I might not always do that. I might do separate rooms. But if you do track it in the same room, I think it's really cool to have that guitar room tone that's like, oh, there's this acoustic thing that's similar to the drum room mics. And you kind of blend them together.
Yeah, it sounds like it's in the same room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Like, I find that with cleaner tones, I can get away with more of that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Where, when it's a clean guitar, I don't necessarily want it like glued to my ear when I'm listening to it.
No, you want it to sound like there's like space between the guitar and then your actual speaker.
Yeah, and definitely even in heavier stuff, I feel like it's always nice to record a double that is cleaner than necessarily just the all-out tone. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the same thing with the snare, where it's just like it's sometimes useful to do another pass where the drummer turns the snare wires off and just hits the accent notes, so you can get more of the note of the snare too. I don't know. Clean guitars often get overlooked in the heavier stuff, but it is what gives clarity, I feel.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't. Even when I'm doing like high gain stuff, I'll always be like, hey, if this is where your gain's at live, that's cool, but we're going to bring it down a little bit because we're going to be layering the guitars.
Ever mic the back of the cab?
No, I've never done that.
It's cool sometimes.
Do you do that with a closed back or an open back situation?
I have mic'd the back of a closed back cab once, and then I think I just did it as like a weird room tone thing. I think it was like, but I'm pretty sure I did that with whatever was being recorded at that point. It needed this just like ungodly muddy guitar sound I thought would sound cool, so I did mic the back just so it was like the closed cab resonating.
Have you ever done the underwater mic trick where you take like a glass of water and stick the microphone in there?
I haven't tried that.
That's weird. It's cool. It's a cool little effect.
But no, like typically, like especially if it's like an atmospheric, like clean little, like a room mic is useful.
I like doing a room mic for guitars in another room, like
far away.
Yeah, like a far away, like I did one time where in my guitar tracking room there's a bathroom next to it, so I had the mic in the bathroom with the door closed, and so it was this really far away sound,
muffled sound. That's cool.
It was like really cool. Because then, like the tile in the bathroom, I think I actually had it in the shower. So then, like the porcelain, it's not porcelain, whatever the hell the bathtub's made out of.
That's cool.
It was this cool reflective sound, and it was like it just added a little bit of shimmer.
That's sweet. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to putting that Heil on a guitar cab. I haven't done that yet, but
You have to clean this thing after I'm done with it.
I don't like the i5 on a guitar cab. I find it's a little brittle. Love it on snare drums though.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big fan of. I like condensers on guitar cabs if they're not too high of gain guitar like tones. Because I think it just adds like a really nice bit of air to it. I also like them as my rooms.
Yeah, I think one of my picks was recorded with 57 and a U87 on the cab.
Ooh, nice.
Just, bright, dark. Yeah, I need to get more ribbons for my. I'm looking at my mics right now for anyone who can't see me. My M201 would probably be cool on a guitar cab. The Buyer.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear that sounds.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not. Yeah, there's so much. It just depends. Man, I try not to put two of the same mics on a cab though. I definitely want the contrast.
The only time I'll ever put two of the same is if it's the 57 thing that I do.
And that was it, like the Friedman technique.
The Friedman technique, or like center cone, center dust cap, and then cone. But yeah, typically I think 57 is the only time I'll ever do two of them. Other than that, I would never do like two
414s.
Yeah, or two 421s. Like no,
two ribbon mics on the cab.
I mean, they're completely different sounding. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
Bright mic, dark mic.
Yeah. Dark mic. I like.
Yeah,
dark mic.
I just try not to get. I mean, really, just try not to get so much proximity effect on the guitar mic itself. Just because, I mean, unless it's like heavy music, that you need that.
Where you want to get that like boom, boom, that pulsing kind of sound from the chugs. Chug City, baby.
All right. Yeah. When you're doing like a 414 style mic, are you miking the center of the cone with that? Or
No.
I was that would be like.
That'd be like crazy.
Horribly bright.
Yeah. No, I'll generally do like the cone, like the outer cone edge. Yeah, and I and if I'm doing, and a lot of times the 414 too, I'll do like a foot away from the guitar, a cabinet. Like I'll do like a foot away from the guitar cabinet if I'm just using that for like more of like a roomy guitar tone, kind of like the Zeppelin-y kind of thing, where like all those guitar tones sound like they're in the room. They're not like directly on the speaker.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that is, if you're gonna mic the back of an open back cab, I definitely point the two capsules at each other.
Yeah,
and
flip the phase of one of them.
Be sure to flip the phase on the back one.
Flip the phase on your actual speakers.
Yeah. Wire your guitar cab out of phase and record it. Also out of phase.
I didn't put them in my list because I don't know. I picked my favorite guitar tones. Like, not my favorites, but like some that I really like. But honorable mention to Led Zeppelin guitar tones. Those are awesome, and nobody's recaptured them since.
Honorable mention to Led Zeppelin. Period.
Yeah.
Oh, also,
it's undeniable how great their recordings were.
If you are going to close your live set with a non-keyboard rendition of The Who's Baba O'Reilly, make sure that you're not using a dotted quarter note delay because it'll sound like the whole band is off. But also,
I don't even know what you're talking about, but I'm here for it.
My trash talk segment. That band that I don't like closed their set with that, and you know how that song's got the really sporadic keyboards?
Well, now this band is going to know who you're talking about them because
they're not going to listen to my podcast. And if they do,
hi.
Thanks.
I support you guys. I don't know who you are.
Thanks for listening. Yeah, they tried to do that sporadic little key part of the song.
I actually don't know that song. If I heard it, I probably know it, but I'm not a huge Who fan. So
yeah,
I know Teenage Wasteland.
Yeah, it's that song. It's called Baba O'Reilly.
Is it really?
Yeah, you know the sporadic keyboard thing that leads that song in.
Yeah.
Wait,
is that really called something different?
Yeah, it's called Baba O'Reilly.
See, this is exact. I mean, I know Pete Townshend's a guitar player. It's so funny. I've read his biography, but I don't even listen to his band. I'm just like, I like Pete Townsend. He seems like a fun guy, and I'm just like, I couldn't tell you anything.
Yeah, I mean, 4-piece. I respect what they were trying to do, but because I don't like them, I like to see them fail. So
who had a keyboard player?
Yeah,
or was it just on the record?
I think just on the record, and they probably had some guy play it live.
I don't know anything. I'm gonna get so roasted. I don't know anything about them.
I mean, they're not like. I don't love them.
Keith Moon was the drummer, right?
Yeah.
I almost said the drum player.
John Eintwistle was the bass player. Underrated. He's got some.
Who was their vocalist?
Roger Daltrey?
Really?
Yeah.
I know nothing.
Yeah, they botched the song. He had the delay setting wrong. So
hum
it's
it for me. Hum the part.
I don't want to do that. We'll play it afterwards.
Hum the part for me, goddammit.
I can't hum it. There's too much going on. I can't make one vocal line sound like 8 fingers on a keyboard.
You've let me down.
Anyway, the guitar player tried to do that with a delay,
Yeah.
but he had it set so it sounded like the band was syncopating the song by a dotted quarter note.
That's rough.
But then the trail of the delay was so long that it wouldn't stop.
It wouldn't disappear and keep going.
It wouldn't stop until the next 2 and. So it wasn't like 1 and 2 and. It was 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and.
That's a really long delay.
It was awesome.
You should have just rolled with it. You should have added your own delay in there. Let's do it.
I did. I just.
That's some 16th note triplets.
This band can't sound any worse. Oh, wait. Yes, it can. Syncopated delays. Let's go.
Yeah, it could have been fun.
It was.
I love
It was
the whole delay on guitar things with
Yeah.
the Edge delay and other bands that have done it with their own thing, where you are using the delay to create more notes that you can't play. I love that sound.
It is cool. They tried to do that, but no one hit. What it was just.
Yeah, here's another shout out. I didn't pick them, but a lot of U2 guitar tones. I love them. They're great.
I listened to U2 when I was setting up today.
Hell yeah. Are they on your list?
No.
Yeah, I didn't.
Strange. I have a love-hate relationship with U2.
I think everybody does.
Yeah. And it's not even because they put an album on iTunes.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Everyone gets mad about that. I was like,
Yeah, man.
But I feel like a lot of my favorite U2 songs aren't the ones that the common person's gonna listen to. And it's not because I'm so hipster of a U2 fan with I like the unknown stuff. But the 5 U2 songs that I love are it's not Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For or Pride or Sunday Bloody. So there's fine songs, but the 5 U2 songs that I'm like, fuck yeah, are just not those.
My Bullet the Blue Sky.
Yep.
Love that song.
Numero uno.
Streets Have No Name. Love
That's
that
a good one. New Year's Day is one of my favorites.
That's a great one.
I think Beautiful Day is good.
I love Beautiful Day.
Puts me in a
we
good
should just
mood.
do a whole episode about you
too. Yeah. We should have Corey on for our
Does Corey like you too?
No, she hates it.
Oh, that'd be great. We should totally
I know.
should.
It'd be
The whole
great.
time she'll just be like, they suck.
And I think Vertigo,
Oh yeah, Vertigo's a great song.
there's a buzzy chainsaw guitar sound.
Yeah.
And that was homie's bass guitar.
One of my guitar students was shitting on the Edge. He's like, yeah, because what is that? That documentary,
It Might Get Loud.
He's like, you've got all these great guitar players. You have the fucking Edge. And I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, I understand what you're saying. He's not in the same caliber as those guys, but the Edge is, one of the most famous guitar players because nobody created that sound that he's created until after him.
Jack White went bum, 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 bum.
I know.
Bum.
I feel like Jack White is so in the same caliber as the Edge, where they create really cool sounds with their guitar. It's kind of like Tom Morello. I know people are gonna be like, Tom Morello's actually a really great guitar player. But yeah, he writes great riffs, but most of his stuff is he wouldn't be remarkable except for the fact that he did really cool sounds with his guitar.
Yeah, he made the pedal board as much of the instrument as what he was playing.
Yeah,
because you look
really
at the
cool.
Edge through the years, bro, he could play the intro to Where the Streets Have No Name.
Yeah.
He could play that on a Telecaster. He could play that. He's usually an Explorer guy, right?
Yeah.
He could play that.
Explorer.
It doesn't matter. PRS, what you hate. He could still play that live, and it would be fucking cool.
Yeah.
His physical guitar doesn't necessarily
Yeah, I mean, he's just
matter
going
as
dun
much.
dun 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 dun, and then it's the delay that's creating
It builds it. It's cool.
It's so awesome.
Yeah,
Shout out the Edge. You should go on the podcast.
you know what? Oh yeah, you know
What
what?
is his real name?
I don't know, but I was gonna roll up my beanie like his.
Oh yeah, he's the man.
You know what? Shout out to internet. I was gonna just shout out the Edge. I feel like his name might just be the Edge.
He probably got legally changed.
David Howell Evans. I think he made the right choice by going by the Edge.
Same thing with Bono.
Yeah. I'd
Love
rather
him or
hang.
hate him. He's a guy. He's a man.
I'd rather hang out with the Edge. I think
Yeah, I'd like to hang out with them both together.
that'd be interesting. Hey, Bono, the Edge, come on the
Come on
pod.
the podcast.
Come on, you want to hang out on the couch? Bono, Animal, and the Edge. Let's talk. All right, now we can get into guitar time.
Yeah. All right. Let's Let's do it.
There's got to be U2 on the playlist, even if we don't talk about it.
Yeah, no, just put them on the playlist anyways. Put a Zeppelin song on the playlist. Like, put Over the Hills and Far Away on there.
Ooh,
Over the Hills and Far... Yeah. Because that one's got a great... It starts off with the 12-string and the clean tone, and then it comes in with... That's a great song. Put that on there.
I was going to put Black Dog on there.
Put them both on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin's just, guitar gods. That's not my thing. I don't know what I'm doing. There we go.
All right. I guess I'll start.
Yeah. Anything by Katy Perry. Lil Wayne's guitar tone on that album that has guitar on it.
On that live performance where he played the solo.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
I really like Wes Borland as a guitar player.
What band?
Limp Bizkit.
Oh, okay, yeah. He's got some great tones, man.
Yeah.
He's got some great tones.
So my first pick for guitar tones is Take a Look Around by Limp Bizkit. Not probably in my top 100 songs or whatever, but he has such good contrasting ideas in his guitar parts, because that starts off really... I think he used a Roland Jazz chorus for like his pedal platform amp, and then whatever he did. Because there's atmospheric, like melodic guitar parts in that song that are mixed further back, and then the tone just gets heavier and heavier and more in your face, and it's just like, it's loud in the left ear, and then it doubles on the right ear, and then it somehow even gets more loud in the chorus.
He should have been in the documentary, it might get loud.
That... Love or hate Limp Bizkit.
Love.
Me, love, personally, but that guitar track is awesome.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
So that's all I have to say. I'll talk about Limp Bizkit all day. If you want us to... I'm going to do a callback to the first time we tried the podcast. If you want this podcast to get canceled because you're tired of listening to us, get Fred Durst on the pod, and I'll retire.
One of my guitar tunes, Church Burner by Periphery off their fourth album. That opening riff is like some single coil guitar. It might be a Telecaster. I think it sounds like a Telecaster, but it could just be some other single coil thing. But it's like super compressed, and it just sounds like each one of those notes is just slapping the speaker. It's so cool. And then it kicks in, and it's just this heavy, heavy metal. But I think it's a really interesting tone for that.
Yeah. They do be having the...
Because it's not djenty. Like, it doesn't sound like their typical djenty tones. It's this other thing that they went for on this album. And I think no other song on the record has that guitar tone, because they used a different guitar on it. But it's definitely not a humbucker. So I think it's a cool example of how heavy metal tones you can get with non-humbucker guitars.
Cool.
Super slick.
I'll transition with that. Heavy guitar tone, not recorded with humbuckers. I'm going to pick Bastards by Defeater.
Oh, yeah.
Telly through a something or other.
Yeah.
Recorded. I think he's said that he's on guitars. He's pretty much just a Royer 121 guy.
Oh, nice.
Like 4 or 6 inches back from the speaker.
Even on their old stuff?
I mean, that album is one
Bastards
of the newer ones. That was Letters Home.
Yeah, that was the third album. Right? Was that the fourth album?
Third album.
Third album.
So, I mean, I listened to it today, and it sounds Ribbon Mike-esque.
Yeah, that's
so,
awesome.
Yeah, that's my second pick.
Hell
It's that whole album tonally is sick.
So I'm pretty sure then, sticking with I remember somebody telling me that this album was recorded with ribbons. But Paper Airplanes by AFI, it's off their Sing the Sorrow record, my favorite record by them. That guitar tone is super dark. I love it. It's very moody sounding.
Yeah.
It's in like that record still has their punk influence on it, so it's an upbeat song. And there's a lot of intricacies in his guitar playing that I think, surprisingly, even with as dark of a tone as it is, still come out. I think just because of how true they stay to just being a three-piece band. Well, three-piece plus singer. But I love that guitar tone. One of my favorite guitar tones ever is off that album.
Sweet. I love the guitar tones on the song Getaway by Pearl Jam. Off of one of their newer albums. I forget what it's called.
With it.
It came out in like 2013. All I remember about that album coming out is I was super stoked on the first 2 songs on the album, and then the rest was just like, this isn't great. It sounds like it's got that like hot rod Texas Telly sound to it, but it's a Pearl Jam style song. I don't know. It's like I always feel that Pearl Jam has like classic country tones, but they do it in a rock.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just
because they've always been so. People always, they got lumped into the grunge scene. But I mean, even when you listen to 10, it's so blues based. You know, it's just high energy blues.
It sounds like the perfect, just like spanky single coil sound. I think I'll add this to the playlist. It's not one of my picks, but it's sort of grunge. Is when Johnny Cash was just like, I'm just gonna record all these old fucking songs. Like when he did his covers album.
Yeah.
The blues guitar tone that comes in halfway through his cover of Rusty Cage is like the perfect blues rock guitar tone. So I'll throw that on. That'll be a bonus. There's gonna be a lot of bonus.
Speaking about slappy, twangy guitar tones, the song "Pool" by, I call them Trico. Other people call them Tricot. Not sure, but Tricot. They are a Japanese all-girl band. They were all-girl band. I don't know. They might have a guy drummer now, but they are awesome. They're like super pop math rock. And they're all like slightly distorted. Like it sounds just like they're running tellies into like some type of Fender, maybe a little bit of blues distortion on it, and super clean, but driven just enough that it just amps it up, high energy, super slappy sounding, but super technical.
I feel like there's gonna be a lot of bonus picks on this guitar playlist.
I mean, there's just so many great guitar tunes out there. I tried to pick like, with like the Church Burner, with the Paper Airplanes in the Pool. Like those are all very different ones, and my last two are just like two of my all-time favorite tones.
That's kind of where I was going with it too, where I picked one that had a lot of contrast in pick number one. Second and third picks, which you just heard, are like definite single coil guitars but have that drive to it. I might just be going through like a nostalgic phase, right?
Just a phase,
just a nostalgic phase where like I do kind of miss the days where like it just sounded like an SM57 in front of a Mesa cab.
Yeah.
Like there is something about that. Like, I think it's because like Thrice released like the Illusion of Safety album turned like 20 last week or something. So I listened to that and I was like, oh fuck, it's just a 57 in front of a Mesa.
You know what's turning 20? Sticks and Stones album by Newfound Glory, and they're going on tour.
Oh, nice. Not Thrice or Newfound Glory. I'm going to pick Monkey Wrench by the Foo Fighters.
Hey, that's got a good tone. I like that guitar
that whole album, there's a breakdown.
That's shape and color.
Color and the
right?
shape.
Color and shape.
Yeah, that was cool. Like all the clean tone, that whole album, it was Dave's Mesa slant cab, and they just changed out the amp heads because they recorded that album. They didn't like it. Dave redid the drums, and then they redid the album from that.
Oh, Dave did the drums on that one? Mm-hmm. Was Taylor in the band?
No, he joined after that.
Oh, okay. So that was still in the phase of Dave being like, I hate all of you.
Yeah, probably. But that, I think on the breakdown, the guy said it was a 57 and an 87.
Okay.
Doing the bright dark thing, and then if they needed the tone to be cleaner, they would just turn down the output on the guitar so it wouldn't drive the amp as much.
Oh, that's
so all
awesome.
the clean tones on that album, like Everlong when it's really clean,
it's
is
just a rollback guitar.
Yeah. And that kind of like, it's cool because that takes some of the high end out too.
Yeah.
Like it's cleaner, but it's
I
kind of
love
scooped.
a good just volume rollback on the guitar. You get so many different tones.
And I kind of needle dropped through that album today. And I was like, there's a lot of drastically different guitar tones on that album. And the guy who recorded it was like, it was literally Dave played the same guitar through the same amp and the same two microphones. It was literally all just like how he had the volume. And I was like, fuck.
I want to,
awesome.
I think for 90% of all guitar players, I think your amp is one of the most important things. Mm-hmm. But there are some guys that break that. B.B. King, when I think one of the greatest things is, I'm not his biggest fan, but John Mayer is a great guitar player. Yeah. You can't deny it. There's a performance. I always use this as an example. I think we talked about this with Bob, but if you will watch, there's this video of John Mayer playing with B.B. King, and John Mayer starts soloing, and it's like, damn, that guy's a good fucking guitar player.
Yeah.
But then B.B. just leaning back, looking like he's half fallen asleep, just starts playing just 6 notes. And the tone that he got, that man was magic. That man was so talented, worked so hard, and he is one of the few guitar players that I will say, yeah, the tone comes from your fingers. Because, you could probably put BB on a $5 guitar through a cardboard box, and it would still sound amazing because that man was just so good at guitar. Whereas I think for 90% of the rest of us, like, your gear is very important.
We need the platform.
Gear, yeah, whereas like BB just amazing.
You could, Freddie Mercury could sing through a fucking Fisher
yeah,
Price.
Right. There are a few
like,
exceptions in my opinion, whereas I think a lot of people, don't want to admit that it's like, yeah, no, you're, like me, like, I'm not going to say I'm the greatest guitar player, and it's kind of like, yeah, like I could play through a Marshall or a Mesa, and like it might sound better through a Mesa because of just how I play or like that. But BB's going to sound good no matter what you put it through, and it's going to still sound like him.
Do you have any specific song or just shouting out BB King?
No, just shouting out BB. Anything. His live stuff. Just watch him play live. Yeah. Just watch any of the live videos.
I'll check. I'll throw some live BB King on the playlist.
But so number 4 for me is Get Out of My Head by 4 Year Strong. It opens up. I don't know what's going on. I think there's an octaver on there. I want to get what's your opinion. But Will Putney gets some of the most amazing guitar tones.
I know he's an octave guy. Dude, that like CKY octave down guitar sound. It doesn't work for everything, but it's sick.
I mean this whole 4 Year Strong record, Brain Pain, this song particularly just because it opens up with just guitar. Yeah. It is so thick, so gnarly. You're just like, and the groove, you get that nasty face head bob going on immediately.
It was Will Putney. There's a song on Every Time I Die's second to last record, Low Teens, where it's definitely the octave down guitar.
Did Will do that one? I know he did. Oh, he did. Okay, because I know he did the newest one.
Yeah, he did the last two.
But he did Low Teens. I love Low Teens.
Yeah, I call it the CKY effect. So, yeah. Well, you guys are getting a lot of bonus songs. It's going to be a dope playlist.
I like it because we could have picked like I said when we started this, like I could have picked like a million guitar tunes. I'm like in the ones that I've picked, and then just some of these ones that are like you definitely gotta mention them. Like when you're talking about guitar, you gotta mention everybody that we mentioned.
You gotta throw some Hendrix on there.
Yeah,
fuck, it's my
throw some Eddie on there, Eddie Van Halen. With the phaser, like everybody's still trying to capture that.
Cool. I guess I'll go my official 5th pick.
Yeah, I got one more after you. My official 5th.
I'm going to go Parabola by Tool.
I was going to say, is there going to be a Tool song?
It's got to be.
Picked it for drums and bass. I feel like you got to go with it.
I have to.
I know you're going to pick it for vocals because Maynard's just...
next level. He's one of the best, in my opinion.
Tool's not even one of my favorite bands, but I love Maynard's voice. I love his voice.
1 week from this day, I will be seeing Tool.
I think I'm going to listen to 10,000 Days on the way home.
It's a good one. Parabola's off of Lateralis.
Yeah. Which one? Wait, what has Sober on it?
Undertow. That was their first album.
Okay, maybe I'll listen to that one. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something. It's got the beefy low end dark guitar, and then that cuts out into just like a reverbed out like mid range tone. Like it's just gnarly. It's good contrasting guitars in that song, and Adam Jones is one of my favorite guitar players. So
it's a great name too, Adam Jones. Yeah, it's like such a bland name, but it's just become so awesome.
There are 3 famous Adam Joneses currently, sort of.
Are they all musicians?
One is the guitar player for Tool. One was the center fielder for the Baltimore Orioles for about 10 years.
You're going to say centerfold
for
Playboy magazine.
The centerfold for MLB.com. And then the other one is a cornerback in the NFL.
Huh.
I don't know if he still plays. He went by the nickname Pac-Man.
Pac-Man.
Just look up the Tom Segura bit about Adam Pac-Man Jones, and he'll fill you in on it.
So my number 5 pick is also my favorite guitar tone ever. And it's also the reason why I play an SG. Venus Doom by Him. One of my favorite bands. Got them tattooed on me. I've been a fan of them for a long time now. But that guitar tone is awesome. It is so heavy and dark. I think he's in drop B. It's a SG through a Laney. Yeah. He's doing the Tony Iommi thing. So also shout out to Tony Iommi for paving the way for heavy metal guitars.
There's going to be some... What Black Sabbath song you want on the playlist?
Hand of Doom.
Oh, sweet. Didn't you know that Bob's friends with the guy who used to do front of house for him, right?
Oh, really?
Brad,
for him?
For him.
Oh, really?
Like the band, him.
Oh, what? Really?
Yeah. Brad Divins is his name. I went to one of his live sound seminars before the vid happened and stopped.
Bob's friends with him?
Yeah.
Shit. I'll have to ask him, yo, what was the real secret behind that? Nah, I've watched so many videos on Linde's guitar tone. But, that Laney amps are
I do like Laney.
They're so awesome. I love them. But yeah, that guitar tone in the opening of Venus Doom, that whole album, but that song in particular, his first song on the record, is just super low end, just like heavy metal, like doomy heavy metal. It's just awesome.
Sick. Shout out Duality by Slipknot.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Shout out.
I learned that guitar riff and I was like, I don't need to learn
the
it
podcast
anymore.
is just gonna keep rolling and rolling. We're like, oh, but what about this guitar tone and this guitar tone?
Is that bad? I learned one guitar riff and I was like,
I've learned enough.
I don't need to write my own music. I just need to play this riff over.
That's how I feel about Carry On My Wayward Son. Like, you learn that song on guitar and it's just like amazing.
I meant to say Peace of Mind by Boston because those are my favorite. Did I already say that?
Is that the first Boston record?
Yeah.
Dude, that album is so well mixed, and he did that in his own home studio, in his basement. Yeah. Like, that album is like so incredible. The guitar tones are amazing.
Those are
that
like that when I'm talking about just like a straight up band pass mid-range guitar tone.
Man,
that
dude,
song is yeah. This could just be 3 hours.
Let's leave it there with Boston because I mean, like we're talking about home recording.
Yeah,
he home recorded on that album like that.
Hey, shout out to the kid there in his wicked basement making wicked guitar tones. All right, this has been episode something.
Episode 9 of the Backseat playlist.
Follow us on Instagram at Reflections Artist Collective. Like us on Facebook if you're on that platform. Follow us on YouTube at Reflections Artist Collective. If you care to help out two nerds make content for you, subscribe to the Patreon.
Change? You got any change there? Well,
we're jiggling our cups. You got a couple spare bits a month? All right, that's about it.